Moin! Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Let's check out this interview with German Chancellor Merz, Friedrich Merz, on his meeting with the American president. It's interesting to contrast the two styles between these two world leaders because the chasm is vast in the differences. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that aren't fans of Merz, and there's definitely a lot of people that aren't fans of Trump. But yeah, let's listen to Merz. He seems like a pretty smart guy, career politician type. I think he's been in politics for a long time, like a lot of politicians are. And we probably shouldn't forget, like, politics is it's a dirty job. It's a dirty industry game. It's hard, you know. Politics is a rough business, right? Certainly not for the faint of heart. But we need to do our best to challenge our leaders in whatever country you are to represent us and, represent the people that have elected them at the end of the day. So let's check out Merz on his meeting with Trump. I think this was a few weeks ago, was the meeting. Let's check it out.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz is with me now. You're coming straight from your first in-person meeting with Donald Trump. You clearly had a rapport there, but you had an in-detail meeting with him afterwards. Did you get any concrete commitments on Ukraine after you reminded him that the United States will make the difference there?
Indeed, we talked intensively.
Extreme weather and wild.
And just a quick aside, like, there's so much psychology involved, right? And communication and language. But yeah, the psychological aspects of, like, Merz, like, how do I deal with this guy when he's going to meet with Donald Trump, knowing everything he does about him? How do I best ingratiate myself to this person to, at the end of the day, get the best outcome possible? So it's not easy to balance those two things.
One of those was Ukraine and this terrible war on Ukraine from Russia. We talked about trade and tariffs. This was not my expectation to move today the president to a new decision. But I argued and I tried to convince him that we are now together in the duty to put more pressure on Russia to come to an end of this war. But on the other hand, I know that this is a very complicated issue. Even here in the US, we are having this strong debate in the Senate. I'm optimistic, but I'm not so optimistic to predict that this will now change overnight something on the territory of Ukraine.
Donald Trump...
So good, like, statesman answer is just saying, like, we talked about it. I think there was probably some positives there. I put forth my position to the American president. Now the ball's in his court, kind of thing. And it's crazy now with the situation with Iran, Israel, Gaza. It's kind of a powder keg right now, which it's, in the Middle East has been a volatile place for a long time. I think back to the what do you call it? The cabaret with Vodka Pispas. His cabaret performances speaking about the Middle East and the Americans, the CIA, the involvement with, the coup in the 50s. It's crazy, the fingers that have been involved in the Middle East and how those strings and events reach throughout history, right? And the Americans have often been at the center of it, right? Either behind the scenes, in the shadows, or right out in front. So, crazy. Let's finish what Merz has to say.
Indeed, also spoke of Russia and Ukraine potentially running out of patience, and that he would be willing to hit either of them very hard. How close is your sense, is he, to running out of patience over Ukraine?
Well, he is seeing that his several initiatives of the last weeks did not succeed, and that President Putin is obviously not willing.
Is Merz sweating really badly? It's probably really muggy out there, to be fair. And then he's wearing a suit, so it's probably pretty hot.
To stop this war, even though they had a very long phone call only yesterday. So we are talking about instruments, what we can do jointly between the European Union, with Germany and America on this side of the Atlantic. I don't have an answer today, but I'm sure that he is thinking about what he could do more. And I reminded him that America always was in charge globally to put pressure on those who are going to war. And it's the 6th of June tomorrow, so-called D-Day, when the Americans invaded Europe to stop the war in Europe in 1944. This could be a similar historic situation, not with military actions, but with pressure on Russia to end this war.
And he clearly appreciated that historic reference. Trade was the other sticking point. He keeps saying that...
You know, find ways to inflate the ego of like a narcissistic personality has to be the center of attention, like Trump. And also a draft dodger. As you know, I saw a clip recently of him. He had some war amps, some veterans who had lost limbs, and just the way that he spoke to them was strange. And I was just thinking to myself, if any of those veterans thought to themselves, "Wow, this guy who, you know, dodged the draft in Vietnam. I think it was Vietnam where he got away, but."
He loves tariffs. Few else do, not even the US markets. How close is he to feeling pressure that this could also harm the United States?
Well, we are working within a very tight time schedule. We would like to see an agreement within the next couple of weeks. We still have some time until beginning of July. This is the deadline the American government has set. This is an issue which is not just on the German side to be resolved. We have to coordinate that within the European Union. We are doing that. I will go back to Europe and talk to my European colleagues on that. And we are trying to make proposals how to overcome the situation. High tariffs is not in our interest, and I'm trying to convince the US government, especially the president, that we should come to a solution, but this will take a while.
How will you measure whether this meeting made a real difference?
I will measure that with regular meetings and phone calls and concessions on both sides, and the willing to have an agreement. And this is my takeaway from today. He is really willing to have an agreement on trade. And
yeah, you need good faith on both sides to get anything done.
If we could achieve that within a foreseeable period of time, we would have achieved much more than former governments on both sides of the Atlantic did. So this is a real great opportunity.
Just finally, you have the same first name, Friedrich, as the grandfather of the US president. You gave him a facsimile of the birth certificate. So overall, is this a new friendship? Is this a transatlantic bromance even?
No, it's a very close cooperation. We met for the first time ever today in our capacities as leaders, and I very much hope that we will be able to cooperate closely, openly, and with
Iran
good colleagues
US bases
from
in
both
Qatar
sides
and
of the
Iraq.
Atlantic.
Chancellor Merz, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I like that. Is this a transatlantic romance or bromance? No. All right. See you guys very soon. Yeah, things are escalating, it seems, with the Iran situation. I'm going to go look into that right now. And yeah, let me know what you think down below. I think Merz is pretty eloquent speaker. And, you know, speaking English too. And he's just very easy to understand, calm, and he's got class, obviously. There isn't really any comparisons to Donny Boy. All right. See you soon. Tschüss.